tremendous looking trophy.
Welcome to Platinum Explosion, number one PlayStation podcast in the Oceanias. My name's Dylan Blight, and joining me for the first half of this episode is no one. It's you, it's I, it's me, and everybody else here. And by that, I mean absolutely no one. So what we're going to do is I want to talk a little bit about Xbox's Inside Xbox and my thoughts on how I think that's going to affect any PlayStation players coming up. I want to go over that quickly, and I want to go over Last of Us Part 2's trailer, and then the last half of the show is me and Ciaran discussing the end of The Last of Us, like finishing our Last of Us replay that we've been doing the last 7 weeks. Yeah. So that's the show for today. Primarily, all The Last of Us. So if you don't care about The Last of Us, I apologize. But also, it is a PlayStation podcast, and what I was going to say if no one cares about Last of Us, Ash is on here. He's co-host, doesn't care about freaking Last of Us. Anyway, so Xbox, in case you didn't know, they had an Inside Xbox show on, I don't remember what day, it was the middle of last week, sorry. And it was a third-party only showing. So it was no first-party products. It was no mind-blowing Halo stuff. It was no getting nitty and gritty into the console itself. Nothing like that. So it wasn't really the start of next generation that everyone wants it to be. And although I agree it's a weird place to start showing next-gen games by being like, hey, here's a bunch of third-party stuff, we actually always begin next-gen by doing that without usually announcing it. And by that, I mean often, even like coming into this last generation, they're like, hey, here's all these games. And even stuff like Watch Dogs, which I think I've brought up before, obviously, which I found out was on last gen. It was on PS3. I had no idea, apparently. But that was primarily being marketed as, it's for this gen, it's for PS3. But, I mean, it was a next-gen game. And even between PS2 and PS3, I've talked about before how I got ripped off because I got super excited for this Tony Hawk's game. Brought the game for my PS2 because I didn't get a PS3 at launch because I was young, didn't have a job, and no way could afford the $1,000 that was needed to buy that thing day one. But I got this Tony Hawk's game for my PS2, and half the game that I saw marketed in trailers didn't exist. It was only for the PS3 version. So whenever I think about crossing over into the next generation of games, I have all these memories of games that were being shown to me and that were next gen or primarily being made for next gen. And they just weren't telling me that. So it always happens. It's never usually announced. So we're not going to go over all the games. If you want to hear my thoughts on all those, you can go listen to the latest episode of Arcade Couch. That entire episode is nothing but talking about the trailers and announcements. And there was some cool stuff, some of which are coming to PlayStation, some of which are Xbox One, Series X, and PC exclusive. So that's cool. That's good for them. But I think the key thing was, what does Xbox showing up first and saying, hey, we're doing an Inside Xbox focusing on next-gen games, how does that and that show affect PlayStation? And I personally have one key thing that I took away from it that I think could affect PlayStation, which is something we already knew, but it kind of just hammered it in even further, which is that if Sony does not have an answer for Xbox's smart delivery, I'm pretty sure they auto lose. I know, lose-win generations. It's not a good mentality to be into when it comes to consoles, the whole console war, but there is usually a win or lose. Everyone likes to lay things out that way, right? So Xbox, in case you don't know, has this thing called smart delivery, where the majority of their games are going to have it. So we can guarantee all their first-party games are going to have it. Second-party, if that's still a thing that exists these days, it's not really, but sometimes it is. Those games are going to have it. And they, through this third-party Inside Xbox, I think 9 out of 13, roughly around that number, of the games shown, third-party are going to have smart deliveries. And that's a really high number. And what smart delivery means is that anyone who buys these games on Xbox One, and we don't have the official full details for this, but we're presuming digitally, if they can somehow work out it to work physically, where it knows you got the disc, and lets you downloads an update or something. I don't know. We don't know all the details, but the key factor is that some which way you're going to be able to buy these games on Xbox One. If you buy digitally, you're safe. If you buy physically, very questionable at the moment. But if you buy digitally any of these games, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, you get the copy for free. Auto upgrade, free. Now, this did happen for a select number of games that were on PS4, from PS3 to PS4. Most of them were indie titles. So I remember when I got my PS4, I got a platinum the first day I had the thing because Sound Shapes was a game that you could get the PS4 version for free, and then I could sync the save file, and I got a platinum. I got a platinum the first day I owned my PS4. Great, love it. Let's do that again. Sound Shapes PS5, please, thank you. There was a couple other games, including Flower, that came over free. Zen Pinball, bunch of random crap. Then you had some other things like the Assassin's Creed Black Flag, some sports games, have you. They were able to be upgraded for, I think it was like $15, $20 Australian. They had this upgrade program and it only lasted about 3 months or so. And it wasn't great and I wasn't a big fan of it and I thought it was very convoluted and the short time span on it and whatever else. And it made me just wait out on a bunch of games and actually just buy them for PS4 instead. Because that's the way I decided to do things. So if PlayStation goes that route again, or partners with publishers to go that route again, I think that's dead in water. I think the best thing about Xbox's smart delivery system is it is completely 100% pro-consumer with no cons, to the point that it may be detrimental to Xbox. However, Xbox has kind of just set the bar now for how we have to look at next gen. So they come out and they say, hey, this game... I was trying to think of a good example. what's a good example that everyone's going to buy? Like, let's just go with Assassin's Creed, right? That's one that a whole bunch of people would like to buy. It's not a first-party game, third-party game that people buy on consoles, PCs, everywhere. That's a game that a majority of people are probably going to play. It's an every gamer's game, right? Assassin's Creed. Valhalla. Everyone's interested in it. Maybe someone is like, you know what? COVID-19 really fucked me financially this year. I will not be able to, as originally planned, upgrade to a next-gen console this year. However, I plan to do it by mid next year. Something along those lines. They still want to play the game, so they buy it for Xbox One, and they play it, and they safely know that the second they buy Xbox Series X, one of the consoles, however it ends up, they're going to have that game. They've got it. And that's the same for many of their titles. And join that with the Game Pass library. Xbox Series X automatically just has a trillion games. I'm over-exaggerating. But they have a trillion games coming out the gate. PlayStation has nothing. They haven't announced any games. Now, we do know some third-party stuff that's coming for PlayStation, of course. And we keep bringing up the random things on here, like fucking hack and slash sword loot game that I mentioned blanking the name on. And there's a couple of things, but they're all third-party, right? We don't know any official first-party games that are coming. We don't know if The Last of Us is going to get an upgrade. We don't know if Ghost of Tsushima is going to get an upgrade. And we don't know if any of these games, Last of Us, Ghost of Tsushima, what have you, we don't know if any of those games are going to have a smart delivery-like system that will let you upgrade to PS5 for free. You will be able to play them on your PS5 because they will be backwards compatible. However, will you be playing the PS5 higher resolution, better frame rate, anything else that's included with that? Will you be playing that version, or will you simply be playing, it's reading it as a PS4 game letting you play that? Because that's one thing, but the smart delivery is another thing. And that's like the key factor here. So PlayStation needs to announce that. I think the other thing that they're really losing here, and this is the point I brought up in Arcade Couch as well, is I think they're losing the mindset by, and I wasn't on board this for a while. I didn't care really, you know. PlayStation, I want them to announce something, but at the same time, like, Xbox isn't really doing much. Like, they are doing stuff, but nothing big enough that's really detrimental to PlayStation not saying anything yet. I feel like Xbox coming out and being like, all these third-party games, smart delivery, smart delivery, smart delivery. You buy it, you got it. You buy it, you got it. That is going to get in people's brains, especially if marketing starts going up soon in shops. You know, we're about to enter halfway through the year. Marketing is going to start soon. It's got to start soon. And they're looking around, and people in JB, Hi-Fi, eBay Games, wherever, if we don't know anything about PS5 at that time, they're like, hey, someone comes in, they're like, oh, I want to pre-order Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Where should I do it? I mean, I prefer PlayStation. I'm a PlayStation fan. I do the damn PlayStation podcast. But if I worked at eBay Games and JB, I'd be like, well, you got a choice? You can pick any console? Is that what you're telling me? Maybe pre-order on Xbox. You're probably safer there. Because pre-order for Xbox, you're going to get it, maybe upgraded. I don't know what we're doing with PlayStation. So from like a consumer standpoint, I am worried a bit about the narrative that PlayStation's going to have. And that's my key takeaway from the Inside Xbox event. Other than that, it was cool that we're officially in the zone. And in case anyone doesn't else know this, the Inside Xbox was kind of like the start of the tournament that we are now in for the next 3 months of next-gen stuff. There's a game getting announced. The game was announced this morning as of this episode post, like 2 a.m. A game is being announced. So I don't think it's going to be massive, but something's getting announced. And then there's another event tomorrow morning, Jeff Keighley doing all this stuff. Inside Xbox is doing something every month. Nintendo doesn't know what they're doing. PlayStation don't know what they're doing. But Xbox, they know what they're doing. Ubisoft's announced an event July. We know stuff's happening June. So we spent half the year being worried. We're officially in the next-gen news cycle. Let's get into this Last of Us trailer. The key thing, right? So I was gonna just go like, here's my thoughts, but I'm like, I'm doing a solo show, so I can kind of do something a little bit different or more exciting, I guess, which is we're just gonna watch it. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna pause it. We're gonna talk about things. No, I haven't watched the leaks. I know nothing. I don't look up leaks. I don't know anything. Don't be worried, everyone. We're just gonna watch the trailer. We're gonna pause it. I'm gonna talk about my theories. We're gonna have fun. This is the official story trailer. There may be one trailer, there'll probably be a launch trailer, but this is your key story trailer. The launch trailer may or may not just be more of the same, or probably shorter, or more hypey. Don't know. But this is probably the biggest and last look we're going to get at The Last of Us. And if you're worried, if you're like, Dylan, I didn't watch it, I may have to turn off the podcast because I didn't watch it for spoilers. In my opinion, this trailer doesn't have many spoilers. However, if anything I'm about to say comes true, and you're one of these idiots that thinks spoilers coming true, someone's theory coming true counts as a spoiler, that's not a spoiler. It's like predicting the fucking lotto ticket's a spoiler for the lotto ticket. I don't know. You know, it doesn't count. That's not how spoilers work. Get the hell out of here. We're watching the trailer. All right, that's what we're doing now. We're gonna pause. We're gonna react. We're gonna talk about it.
I know you wish things were different.
It's a bit too quiet. So here straight away. This is the thing. This isn't in the original game. And if you're like, but how do you know, Dylan? When's the last time you played it? How do you know that this isn't a scene you've forgotten? I just played the game. We're about to. This show's going to end with me talking about the end of the game. I just finished replaying The Last of Us Remastered with Ciaran. We're about to talk about it. So I can guarantee you, take the money to the bank, that this scene is not in the original game or the DLC, right? So this is a new scene. So it does make you wonder if the game is going to open up with flashbacky type stuff, or you're periodically going to have flashbacky type stuff, or I guess the third option is there's going to be a key moment in the game that triggers a flashback to a sequence that we missed in the original, because they could tie in, like they could add a scene that becomes important towards a character that shows up in, like they could be like, oh, we've met this character before. And you're like, no, you didn't, because I didn't remember seeing them. But then they say, oh, no, we met them at this point that wasn't included in the game, because of course there's so many points in the game where it jumps ahead. It's like, oh, it's summer now, it's fucking winter, blah, 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 blah. It kind of just moves and skips ahead time constantly. So that's what could be happening there. That's Jackson, Tommy's Town, Jacksonville, whatever it's called. That's what I wrote, right? Jacksonville, right? See? The Last of Us Part 2, the Tricksters, you'll notice from the thing. Yeah, Jackson. Yeah, it's just Jackson, right? Not Jacksonville, it's fuck. Just Jackson. So that's Jackson, where you headed at the end of The Last of Us. You headed there, you stopped on a cliff, Ellie and Joel had that conversation. That's where the game ends. Here you can see Joel with a guitar over here, if you're watching the video. Because I have the video up. You should watch the video for this. I've got the visual element. If you're listening, it's fine. Just continue listening. But you got Joel on a horse. I'm going to describe everything. You got Joel on a horse with a guitar. We know you're going to be able to play the guitar. There's going to be like some mini game type stuff. And then they're riding back to Jackson. It seems like they got power set up because they got lights, they got those power poles, etc., etc., etc. It looks exactly or similar to how it looks coming down that hill at the end of Last of Us. Now this over here could be Tommy, and I guess you're supposed to presume it is Tommy, but something about the hair looks off to me. It doesn't quite look like Tommy. I don't know. So I'm not sold on that being Tommy, but it would make sense obviously if it is and was Tommy. Then you get this shot of Joel playing guitar, another flashback type thing.
Ellie!
Now, Joel here is old as fuck. Let's weigh that down. Joel, anytime you see him in this trailer, old, withered, distressed. The dude has had a life, so I give him points for that. But also the important thing about this scene is Ellie seems to be walking towards this dead person on the ground really unsafely to a degree that's worrying. And it makes me wonder if she was checking if it was someone or something, because, I mean, she'd know not to just walk up to dead bodies. It's quite weird. And Joel's just really speaking to her. And another thing I'd say, if you rewatch after listening to this, because you're like, I heard you talk about Dylan, now I might actually watch the thing, or you're watching the video version. Everything with Joel in this trailer, in my opinion, is very early in the game. IMO. So if we just rewind it. Got the tattoo.
But they ain't.
A whole bunch of clickers and infected and it's fucked up and they look nasty. So this is a key thing. So we get this shot here. That's Jackson on fire, presumably. It could be a red herring. It could be completely different village, completely different place. Like, I can't see any power lines. I'm looking. Can't see any power lines. I can't see, but also it's nighttime and the place is on fire, right? It looks like watching the third or fourth episode of Game of Thrones from last season. That's a reference for people who get it, right? And I'm presuming it's Jackson on fire. And I want you to put a pin in this being Jackson on fire, and we're going to come back to it in a second, because I think the way that the trailer plays out is not in chronological order of events. So put a pin in it. Jackson on fire, pin in it.
Please stop.
Ellie's then getting held down by these people. We know she goes through some shit. Here her back's completely fucked up, like she got battered and bruised to hell. So here the way they edit this is the thing. Joel's here. She's got a black eye. She got attacked. She got punched. All that sort of stuff. Joel's pacing around like he's contemplating and thinking about something. All of this is prior to that fire shot, presumably, if that is Jackson. Because if it's on fire, the building's probably down, and B, they've got power in here. So even if one building survived, I highly doubt the power survived because the amount of fire they got. So I'm saying this is before the fire, and she's been for a fight with someone else or something else. Maybe she's getting sloppy. But none of this is to do with that moment she was getting held down.
I'm leaving tomorrow.
To do this smart, we've
Now
been
you get
leaving
Tommy.
Jackson vulnerable.
So something, in my opinion, let me lay out my hot theory. In my opinion, something at the start of I think this is going to be a very long game, by the way. A very long. They're going to take the year-long road movie aspect of the first movie, and they're going to go, yeah, you know what? Double that. Let's actually make it take a year to fucking finish. So I think Ellie, at the start of the game, something fucked up happens. And not as fucked up as it's going to get. This whole game's going to be fucked up, and it's going to start something messy happening. And she wants to go do something. She wants to go either save someone that potentially got taken, be that her girlfriend, which I hope it's not, because I think that's going to be a shitty plot line, especially if they kill her, which I've talked about before. Her, and then they want to head out. Because Tommy's like, if we do this, if we head out, we leave Jacksonville vulnerable. And what I think this is early game, because I think what happens is they do leave. They do leave Jackson vulnerable. And then what happens when they leave Jackson vulnerable? The bandits come in, or whoever it is, marauders, whatever they call them in this game, and they're gonna burn the place down, and they're gonna kill a lot of people.
So they just get to get away with this?
How'd you find us?
Because they make it out like all these people she's chasing here. This whole group. She's holding knives to their throat. She's killing them. Humans. There's not many infected in this trailer at all. They really are just like going ham on this game. Is mostly going to be about human interaction and less about the infected and whatever, which makes sense because that's how most, if you watch any zombie movie, especially if it has a sequel, the first one's like 90% zombies, 100% zombies. You know, it's like one or a group versus the people. Maybe one turns goes bad type thing. The sequel is primarily usually doing the whole, yeah, but what's worse than dead? It's us. And that's the way they usually take it. But you got this whole group. She's hunting them. And I really honestly feel like they're two completely different groups of people. I feel like one is potentially one person or two people that left or did something in Jackson that maybe she went after or something along those lines. And then I feel like the second group is the group she's hunting that burnt down Jackson.
You can't stop this.
That dude looks like he's a fucking, like, if we go back a whole second. Let me just, oh no, never mind. I was about to say, I thought he had a fucking, like something carved into his head. It's just not. We can calm down a bit. So she has a tattoo, which we've seen in all the trailers on her arm. She's got this brand new tattoo, which I'm not 100% sure of the significance. I'm sure there is going to be some significance. The thing I'm more interested in is the braided bracelet thing or whatever she has around her right arm. Because if you go to different points in the trailer, she doesn't always have it on. So I feel like it is of importance to someone who probably dies. Presumably. And that's why she has it on. Because it's not on in every shot.
I want what you want. But not at any cost.
So then you have this other guy, this character, whose name we don't know, a new character, who's saying, I want what you want, but not at any cost. So someone else presumably wants revenge against a certain group of people, something along those lines, but he's not willing to go the full 9 yards as Ellie is. Because this trailer really sets up that Ellie is going to cross that line that Joel crossed in the first game. And she's going to go there no matter what on this revenge mission against a whole group of people. Also, at this point here, where are we? 123. These people look like army sorts of people. The clothes, everything like that. How the fuck did I accidentally open up this Windows thing? Anyway, let's continue. They show this shaking hand shot. She's got blood everywhere. They literally have a shot where there's a red light and a close-up of her face to really send home the rage. She's turning.
I really hope you make it.
Now we get these nuts. So in this, around here, so this is another thing I really love about this trailer. Around 138-ish, you have a couple shots of her fighting various people, nothing super important. But you also have these two shots. It cuts between a shot of Joel looking at her. He looks sorry, in my opinion. He looks sad. He looks sorry. He looks kind of apologetic, like he's seeking her to say it's okay. And then they have a shot of her hitting someone, whatever. You skip past that. You get this other shot of her, and she is looking through him like she cannot believe what he just said or told her. And I think this is possibly a scene where she's finding out the truth of what Joel did in the first game, or something along those lines, or maybe something even worse. But either way, the framing, I think, is also important for this scene, because they have the framing of the two shots exactly or very similar to the framing of the shots from the first game at the end of the game, where Joel lies and then Ellie says, okay, and that's when the credits roll. The framing's eerily similar. They are facing each other, very similar position, even away from another. It's an open field, even feels like the end of the first game in some ways. And they've switched positions. So at the end of the first game, Ellie's on the left. She's looking at Joel, who's on the right. And they've switched. I find that super, super, super interesting. I could be reading into a lot too much. You got this dude has a gun. He's putting his hands up. He's about to start shooting.
I have to finish it.
There's a cost.
There's no cost. So they show one shot at around like 150 of potentially. I should look up a name. I'm so sorry, but the girl who is her girlfriend that we found out in the first trailer for this. Show for like one hot second. See this shot here. What has happened? 155. I don't think I have seen a shot of a as distressed human being as in a video game for quite some time, or maybe even ever. It makes me really worried about playing this game at 155, where Ellie just looks distraught. She's got blood everywhere over her face, neck. It's everywhere. And it really seems like she's looking at someone below her. And I have lots of worries. She is just...
We could have killed you. Maybe you should have.
So that person at the end says, we could have killed you. And I think that ties back to at the start of the trailer where you see her, she's getting held down by all these people, and it makes it, the way it's edited, it tries to make it look like that is taking place. And then after they have the shot of her all bruised and battered up, and that could be after, but I just feel like that all that stuff with Joel actually takes beforehand. And then, yeah, lots of questions, obviously. I think rightfully so. The trailer is fucking fantastic trailer, leaves you with heaps of questions. It absolutely stunning, beautiful. I feel like if you've done yourself a horrible disservice if you have not watched that trailer on the biggest TV you can find in 4K, because it is, I think, probably going to end up just being the best looking game we've ever had. I don't know if it's going to be the best game ever, but certainly judging off that trailer, it is absolutely nuts how great the character models look, all the finer details on them, scratch marks, blood marks, whatever else. I feel like as we go through the game, all these like slight little injuries Ellie's going to get are slowly going to be shown all over her and whatever else, you know, crawl through mud, these little tiny little details and things like that. And also the combat just looks absolutely visceral to a point of being a horror movie where Ellie's the slasher and she's going through and she's the one actually murdering and destroying people on her one woman revenge mission. You got also the moment where she, or it could be a different character for fucking all I know, but there's that shot of someone shooting out the back of a Jeep and a bunch of other Jeeps. I have a lot of questions about how fuel continues to be a resource people are finding in the apocalypse, but I mean, that's fine. Either way, it looks really cinematic, more Uncharted 4 inspired, obviously, sort of action sequence, especially the stuff like we're getting dragged along in that game by the rope and whatnot. Seem to be more in line with that sort of stuff. But no, fantastic trailer. Absolutely love it. And can't wait to play the game. I'm happy not to see any more now. Perfectly happy. But at the same time, I don't feel like I've seen too much. I feel like that trailer just shows the right teasing amount to get me talking, which is what we've been doing. And then I don't really need to see anything else. This is a Platinum Explosion special where myself and Ciaran are replaying The Last of Us and discussing our adventure ahead of The Last of Us Part 2. Today we're talking about the final chapters of the game. Firefly Lab and then Jackson, the epilogue final chapter. Well, it's not really a chapter, it's just an epilogue. So let's get straight into it. Let's get straight down to business. This is the end of the game. Joel, after being knocked out, wakes up inside of a hospital with a Firefly holding a gun at him. And Marlene's there in front of him. Hey, Marlene, we haven't seen you since the start of the game. Welcome back. Glad to see you're alive and you've made it from fucking whoop whoop to whoop whoop, just like we have. What a great time that's been. Marlene is shocked that they made it. Joel made this whole journey, but is happy for it. Joel, of course, asks about Ellie, and Marlene says that she's fine, but is being prepped for surgery. Marlene then explains the doctors said the cordyceps in her have indeed mutated, making her immune to the disease. So they want to remove them and reverse engineer a cure from there, which seems like pretty, scientific stock stand stuff. Joel responds by asking how they're going to do that since the cordyceps grow on the brain, to which Marlene confirms the operation will indeed kill Ellie because they have to cut out her brain. And that's a way to start. They pretty much throw this motion. You go like, yeah, like Ellie nearly died, to taking it on the water, to, wow, Ellie's just going to die. Like it's from one end to another. And you're like, well, I thought Marlene was like her mother figure. Whoa, what the hell's going on here? That's fucked up. So then what happens, and I'll stop here in a minute. We'll get the first part of the game open. So Marlene then orders the guard to escort Joel out of the building, even though apparently she got told by her higher-ups to kill him, is what she implies. But which makes the Fireflies really sound quite ruthless. Because they're like, yeah, no, fuck him. Like, he brought us to her, but he's too much a liability to kill him. But she was the one willing to take the risk and just be like, escort him out. Like, let him live. So on the way out, Joel's getting escorted by his guard. He walks past Ellie's bag. And triggers
it's his
something.
bag.
Oh, it is his bag.
No,
sorry.
it's his bag. Yeah, it's not Ellie's.
Walks past his bag and then he like stops for a second, manages to punch the guard out, and then asks him for where Ellie is, and of course he gets information and then proceeds just to shoot him straight in the face because Joel takes no prisoners.
It's in the gut. Thank you very much. I believe
he's dead either way. Let's just
It's fine.
he's dead. So then I think this whole bunch of next things here is sort of important, and then also you can miss them, which I think can change your experience with the end of the game somewhat, because as you fight your way through the hospital in an attempt to find Ellie, you fight many fireflies, many armored fireflies, and playing this on hard difficulty I'm sure would be a pain in the ass because nearly all the enemies in here have fucking body armor on, and that would be a giant pain, and they hurt because they all have semi-automatic or automatic weapons, so they all hurt. But you can find a couple key audio tapes or voice memos left by key people, which I feel like if you don't get or don't find, you're kind of missing out the full explanation of what's going on. So you can find one, especially
if you this was when the game was initially released, where we didn't have the Left Behind DLC to fill in
more
some
stuff
gaps.
about Marlene. Yeah,
This kind of fills in a lot of stuff about Marlene and the relationship between her and Ellie.
It does, yeah. So you can find one from the surgeon who's performing the operation, talking about Ellie being like the next big revelation in human history since the penicillin. Then you can find 2 audio tapes from Marlene that explain her relationship to Ellie and also her mother, and about how basically the sort of stuff we got told in Left Behind about how she promised to look after her and all this other sort of stuff. Although none of this implies that she was involved as the Fireflies, whereas I feel like the Left Behind DLC more implies she was involved with the Fireflies.
This does imply, though, that that Ellie's mother's dead.
Yes.
Like this very specifically
says she's
implies that she's dead.
Yes.
Which is interesting when we've talked about conspiracies and theories
Last
for
of Us Part 2.
Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah. But I think having one character believes a character's dead doesn't, apocalyptic
it's like,
world
is this
like,
just like smoke to kind of throw us off? Is this actual information?
Well, even if they wrote her dead, doesn't mean they can't.
Yes.
They could change it and be like, yeah, but Marlene had it wrong. And everyone would be like, yeah, fair enough. Like, whatever. It's very easy to explain around that if that's what they wanted to do. You can find out more information about her and her mother. And it also, you get to hear her talk about how she isn't happy to be doing what she is to Ellie and how she raised Ellie kind of like her own kid. And, very much talks about her with a love for Ellie. However, she is doing what she believes is the right thing, what Ellie would want to do, and also what Ellie's mum would want Ellie to do in this situation. And that's why she's willing to go through with it, no matter how shit she's feeling about it. And I feel all of that's necessary, especially when Marlene just before is like, yeah, I got to do this, fuck you, bye.
It's necessary. My only thing, and it's the thing that makes me probably accept Joel's choices a little bit easier than other people accept them at the end of this game, is the fact that the Fireflies, for me, are just as bad as Joel. Because they don't give Ellie a chance to make the actual decision herself. Mm-hmm. People just keep going, this is what Ellie would want to do. Like, they don't wait for Ellie to recover from almost drowning. They don't give her the option. They're just, she's still unconscious from drowning. Yeah. We're doing it right now. Yeah. Like, we're not giving her the choice. And I think that's my biggest thing where I'm like, no, that's messed up. Even though you deeply know that Ellie would have still gone through with it, you still need to give her that choice. You still need to allow her to make the decision to give her life away. And I also think Joel would have accepted it more if Ellie had made that decision.
Or she could have talked him into...
Or talked him... Like, if Ellie had made the decision and she could have that discussion with Joel, Joel wouldn't do what he does. No. I think it's just because of the haste of the Fireflies and how quickly they're like, man, like, as a general organization, they're kind of like, this one life to save many is worth it. We'll give up this one life without her choosing to save many. And even though Marlene's like, oh, I hate that I'm doing it, but I'm still doing it, I'm still like, no, you're not making the right decisions here. Like, you have, like, there's still something. You still have to give the person something because they are a human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely feel like Wheel's hitting it on the nail on the head with the whole everyone's just making decisions for her. Ellie has no control of her life in this final chapter at all, and someone makes that decision for her, which is Joel in the end. But even if it wasn't Joel, the Fireflies were making that decision for her. So it is a whole bunch of, and I really hope in the sequel, it would be really good to have a strong narrative about her just kind of fully taking control of her life back, especially if Joel's going to turn up in a sequel and still trying to tell her what to do, and she can be like, listen, dude, fuck off. Like, I'm old enough now. I'm making my own decisions. Get the hell out of here. Yeah, because even Marlene's just like, I've known you for your whole life or whatever, or most of your life, but I'll just presume I know best.
you're like, in theory, Marlene should be feeling the same way, if more protective than Joel is.
Yeah.
But she's so kind of pig-headed and stubborn and so focused on what her goal is to save humanity that she is skipping over some of the most important things to do with her relationship with Ellie.
Yeah. And that's lots of really great stories in movies, games, books, what have you. Over the years, you do have really interesting protagonists at times where, they set out with good intentions for something. They get so lost in their cause that they lose sight of what they were kind of doing it for, or lose attachment to normal reality and humanity, which it seems like the Fireflies are a bit. Like, I like to imagine they started out as this sort of Green Roots guerrilla group out to save the world when the government was giving up, because that's what we're told at the start of the game,
Yes.
Like, the government's given up trying to save the world. They're like, fuck looking for a cure. We're just going to make sure everyone stays along. Fireflies, fuck them, we'll kill them. Fireflies is like, we're looking for a cure still. So the game sets you up to be like, Fireflies are great. By the time you get to the end of the game, it's like, Fireflies, they really seem like they're mean people.
And that's the thing where it's like, when you look at it, it's kind of, from a more logical point of view, it's kind of like, isn't it kind of a smart thing for the government to be like, all right, let's stop. We've spent 20 years looking for a cure. We can't find a cure right now. Let's put our energy into making sure the people that we do have stay alive and can live and can prosper, and we can set ourselves up for the future. And let's not continue to, at the minute, pump money into a cure that we don't know if it's going to work. It's just one of those things where you're like...
Is it taking money in an apocalypse to at least be like, the doors are open to find a cure still?
It's taking resources from them, I think, is their kind of... And the government do it in the wrong way. Like, they're doing it in a very martial law kind of way. But, yeah, I think it's just two different...
There's lots of history to this game franchise and world that I still don't have answers to, which is, why the fuck aren't the government ever just like, hey, Fireflies, just like, come chill with us, look for your cure, like, we can work together.
Maybe that's the way. It's because of just the animosity between the two groups. Because the Fireflies, in many ways, even though they're adults, they mainly feel like a teenage rebellious group that's like, fuck the government, man. We're here to do our thing and to look for the cure because we're number one. And it's like, it's just like, there's just this weird kind of like adolescent almost animosity between the Fireflies and the government in a very weird way.
It's, looking back on the game, it's weird because I'm like, there are not many people and or groups in this game that I actually would say are good people.
But I think that's the point of the game.
Yeah,
I think
everyone's bad.
Relatively, and I think it's something what Neil's trying to say through this game is, to survive in this kind of world, everybody has to make some pretty shit decisions and be overall bad people just to live. Because good people get taken advantage of, they make shitty decisions, they do things that get themselves killed. So the people that have survived this long are either extremely lucky or they've made some really tough decisions that they're going to have to live with.
When you think about only like good characters, mainly good characters in the game, they're just like the kids. You got Ellie, Sam. They they're young.
But that's because it's their innocence.
Yeah.
And I think very much by the end of this game, Ellie has lost a lot of that innocence. Like, she's definitely sure. the Ellie at the start of the game could not have John Rambo'd her way through the resort and fought off and killed David. Like, she couldn't have done that. And it's just sadly what has happened and what she's had to go through to make sure that Joel can survive and that she survives.
So Joel eventually finds the operating room after fighting through a whole heap of people, and he runs in just in time as there's these operators standing there about to do work to save Ellie, and he picks her up, and then you do the sequence where you're running through the hospital, dodging fireflies, alarms going off, people chasing you, pretty epic stuff.
It's really funny. I got lost about
What?
halfway through the running away. I ran in the wrong direction.
Oh my God.
And the AI just kind of awkwardly stands behind you, waiting for you to run the right direction. And you're like, "Oh, yeah, I've really ruined the atmosphere of this this section." Okay. Oh well. Like, I also say, I think I remember, and it's not a scene people like to discuss because it's pretty messed up in some ways. In the operating room,
If you wait.
in the operating room. I remember being very confused at what to do in the first time I played this game. Like, I was very I remember stood there being like, wait, what do I do? Do I just grab her? Do I? And then it's kind of dawns on you that you can shoot the surgeons and stuff. And it's just but this time I think I was just very quick to action to be like, no, I'm saving Ellie. Like I'm just like, fuck everything. Like
We have to shoot one surgeon. One surgeon goes for a scalpel or a gun or alarm or something.
Yeah.
You shoot them, and then I walk up to the other one. I just kind of held a gun to him because I'm playing the game like I'm the director of a movie over here, like pointing the gun, like, you fucking stay there. And then I walk over and grab Ellie's.
I literally like reacted as the first one started talking, and I put a bullet in him and a bullet in the second one, and left the nurse crying, and I was like.
Wow.
I was like, no fucking remorse. I am Joel.
I was about to say, you are Joel.
I'm like, I am Joel in this situation. Like, I'm here to save this little girl, and we're gonna get out of here. Like,
Really, I'm playing Joel wrong because you're probably right. He probably would just shoot all of them.
Yeah, like he's not. That's the thing where I'm like, even if you don't like it, it's like that's what this character has been kind of explained to us as. This is what this character is for this franchise, and. It's you've kind of anybody who says Joel is a good guy is lying to themselves. Joel is a survivor that does
that's
whatever it takes to survive.
Yeah, that's the key factor, and we'll get into it a little bit more in a minute. But like as we briefly went on about last week, I think Joel's a bad guy, and that's why I don't like him. Although I enjoy participating in his story the same as I do Walter White in Breaking Bad. And I do think if people are like, I really like Joel as a character or whatever, that's fine as long as you accept the fact that he isn't actually a good guy. Like, he does lots of fucked up shit.
There's the other thing where you kind of have to go, well, in this world, there's really no such thing as good and bad.
Ellie's good.
There's just I don't think Ellie's good.
What?
Not in terms of what we believe is quote unquote good. Like the amount of people she's killed.
Yeah, they were
she's
all
killed so many people.
Yeah, but none like Joel. She never did anyone that
she doesn't take anything she doesn't do anything over the top, but she still kills people.
Everyone she kills is in self-defense, as far as I'm concerned. Like, she only ever kills people who are in her way, like with a gun pointed at her. She doesn't kill anyone she doesn't do a Joel where it's like, hey, I got information out of you and I could let you go and, I'll just do a war crime. No, but that's the thing where you're like,
just gonna... But that's the thing where Joel has lived life experiences where Joel has, these situations where you do leave somebody alive and it comes back to bite you in the ass later. Probably. And you're like, but never again.
It's still
never again am I doing that.
It says something about something, I think, especially when you're writing fiction.
Well, if you write
fiction and you make a character do that, you're saying something.
If we're gonna look to the future of the game a little bit and what we know from the trailers of The Last of Us Part 2, Ellie's in the very similar position as Joel is.
Very much those trailers tease like she's turned into Joel, or like a equivalent badass killing machine, I'm going to kill every single last one of them,
Yeah, exactly. So that's
but I played the game. I don't know if that's just playing with my expectations.
Maybe she has the back and forth. Maybe the story of it is going to be back and forth. Is she good? Is she, what did she do? But,
yeah. I haven't really said that much about what the hell that game is.
No, exactly.
Unless you want to go look at the leaks, which...
Don't do it.
Don't do it. So yeah, you eventually get in this elevator. You head down to the parking garage where he's met there by Marlene. Marlene asks him to do the right thing, asks what do you think Ellie would do too, and points out how he knows exactly how she would feel about what Joel's doing in this situation. Joel then does a sneaky and just shoots Marlene directly in the stomach with a gun hidden below Ellie's body, concealed pistol. Then goes and puts Ellie's body into a car, and then walks up to Marlene, who's begging him to let her live. Please let me live, Joel. Please let me go. And Joel responds with death itself as in his breath, and then just goes, "You just come after her," and then bang, shoots her in the head. Like stone cold killer.
I remember being shocked the first time watching this, and especially because they play this in a way that's very cut up, so you don't know.
I wrote it in actual order where they cut away.
Yeah, you wrote it where it kind of flicks back and forth, but I was grinning the entire section of this
You're
section.
a sadist.
No, because I'm like, fuck yeah, Joel. Like,
Marlene was not a bad person.
But she made bad decisions.
So does Joel, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but that's okay. But that's okay. That's not to get into that. That is not okay. But it's just Joel making a decision that is protecting the person that he cares about the most, because he didn't ever have that choice with Sarah. When he lost Sarah, he didn't have the choice to try and protect her.
100%. The ending of the game is literally supposed to mimic the start of the game, except for this time he takes control of the situation. Like, he's literally carrying his new daughter like he does at the start of the game with his real daughter, Sarah, and then he gets stopped by someone with a gun, just like at the start of the game, who says for him to do something, except for this time, he shoots them. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to give you the exact same
Yeah, exactly.
feeling,
It's just like, where I'm like, it's this game is just, not to go on it too much more, but shades of grey. It's not black and white, it is shades of grey.
50 shades of them, I'd say.
Well, no, not 50, no. No, that's awkward. No, Dylan. It is, but no, it's very much Joel just made his decision that, sorry, Marlene, you're trying to do the quote unquote right thing in your eyes, but this is the right thing in Joel's eyes, so you lost out.
Supreme power. Sometime later, Ellie wakes up in the car and asks what happened. Joel explains that there was dozens of immune people inside the hospital, dozens of them, and that they've given up making a cure as well because they can't figure it out. So they're like, fuck it, we'll go and try to do something else. Then we cut to sometime later, I would presume potentially weeks at this point, or like at least a week. It's been a
decent amount of time, because
decent amount of time,
considering it's probably taken a couple months for them to go from Jacksonville to.
I was
Salt Lake
walking.
City.
I guess if in the car, they potentially cut it down to a couple weeks, maybe. I don't know.
No, but then also they've got to, maybe they haven't rushed the entire time. Maybe they've kind of taken their time a bit more, kind of.
Also, don't know American geography well enough to
Yes, exactly. 100%.
put together how this all works. Yeah. Either way, they're arriving at Tommy's settlement, and they come to a blocked off section, so they got to get out of the car and walk the rest of the way on foot. Joel, as they're walking through this bush section, Joel begins to explain to Ellie that Sarah would have really liked her, and they've been good friends. Ellie responds by saying she would have liked that. Once they reach the top point of the cliff and they're looking down on the settlement and they're about to head down there and go join up with everyone and live a happy life, Ellie tells Joel to stop for a second, and she explains how she's feeling. And by the way, remember weeks ago where I was like, surely I swear in my memory there's a part where she explains what happened to Riley. When watching this part, I was like, I knew it! I knew it would happen in the game. But so then she mentions how Riley died, who was her first person to die amongst this. Tess died, and then Sam died. She's very much explaining, pretty much the definition of survivor's guilt, in which that all of these people around her keep dying, but she's unable to apparently die because she's immune, and she can't do anything to save the people that she loves either.
All right, come on.
Hey, wait. Back in Boston, back when I was bitten, I wasn't alone. My best friend was there, and she got bit too.
We didn't know what to do. So, she says, let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess. And then Sam.
None of that is on you.
You don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And you... No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Oh, it's this is some of the most powerful kind of cinematic in gaming, just in general. Just that look, that giving Joel the time to look at her, and you can tell he's really looking at her and saying, I swear. And sitting there, and even though I am very much, and you all can tell by our discussion, I'm very much fan club Joel. Like, I'm very much like, I'm very much like on Joel's side of this. I still was like, I was like, okay, Joel, if you want to go with this lie of them being okay, sure, and you want to swear it to her, I guess. But the thing is, also it connects up to Joel's kind of viewpoint and everything for for what we know of Joel so far, that he's willing to do anything to protect the people that he loves and make sure they survive. And you can tell he's just worried about what she would do if she knew the truth. And I don't say that's a good enough excuse. It's not a good enough reason to do that. It's not, but that is his flawed thought process for this. That he's saving Ellie by doing this.
Look, yes, I know why he's doing it. I don't agree with it at all. And I mean, you can get into the whole. I think there's several parts to the discussion, and we're not going to spend ages on it today because these segments aren't supposed to be that long. But like, you can boil it down to: would you do a similar thing if it was your loved one at the hospital? And honestly, I can't answer that question. I have no idea what I would do if I was in Joel's sort of scenario there. I would like to think that I would do the thing we was talking about before, where it's like, I wouldn't want to make the decision, but potentially save them and then not lie to them and let them make the decision. I don't know, like there's a middle ground potentially. But I feel like especially when I played it the first time, I was kind of all on board the Joel train, because I was like, these people don't seem as good as I thought they were led up to be. I'm saving her. This is great. The part where I turn to team Joel's actually the bad guy is everything from the car onwards. I'm like, just how confident and the lies that he's telling, and the fact that he's wanting to set up a life with this girl and like set her up as his new daughter type scenario, and the fact he's willing to set up all these lies, these pillars of lies around their life, and then he's going to be completely okay living in those pillars of lies. And these are massive lies that change.
That many pillars of lies.
They are. They're massive. They're going to change the way that Ellie thinks about life. It is, because she lays it out. She says, all these people have died. She basically explains that she wanted to find a cure. If she could become the cure, she would do it. 100% she would have died to do the cure, because she has this survivor's guilt going on. And then if she died knowing that she could save the lives of other people like her and Riley or all these sorts of people, that would make her feel so much better about losing all of her friends and all these people. So Joel's saying that there's no way for a cure anymore. That takes away an entire part of her life, which may have been about to finding a cure. Because I believe even if the Fireflies couldn't find the cure that day, I believe that the rest of her life, she wouldn't have stopped looking for a way to find a cure. Because I believe that she would have made it her mission to find a cure, because that's the way she feels about it all. So he takes that away from her by saying it's over, it's done.
He takes that away from her, but I think And I think you've hit it on the head with the fact that this could be something that is going to be very prevalent in part 2, is just her taking back that control. But just everybody takes control away from Ellie. Joel just does it in a bit of a different way that is kind of, that messed up, and the lies make it a lot worse than what it is. But it's just, I really hope, and I don't know why I even need to hope it, because I think the world of Neil Druckmann as a writer and the team at Naughty Dog. But I hope that it isn't just, that The Last of Us Part 2 isn't just F Joel, you screwed up my life, you did all this dumb shit, F you, where we will be more of a everybody around me is continually trying to take control and choice away from me. That they do kind of reflect on the fact that the Fireflies were just trying to kill her outright. Like, that they were just trying to kill her and take that choice away from her without her having that decision.
I would love, I hope it's not the whole game or like a big part of the game, but I would definitely love if their relationship in the sequel is volatile to her coming to learn the truth and Joel getting his kind of comeuppance about it. And I think you can do it in a nuanced way that's not just like, fuck you then, and like, peace out, and then he's only in like the first 10 minutes of the game and then he's like gone, or some weird nonsense like that. I understand that this will piss off a big majority of the Last of Us player base, though, because I know everyone loves, like, I'm pretty sure most people feel like you, in that most people love Joel as a character, and they love the father-daughter chemistry, and they want that to continue in 2. However, I'm trying to be realistic about it.
No, the thing is, I still want them to have that argument. I still want them to get to that boiling point.
You just want her to forgive him?
Well, not forgive him, but just to... I hope she has more understanding of Joel making that decision and stuff. That it isn't just at face value, just, giving him some kind of thought to what he did at that time.
Well, I could see it being like, she finds out the truth and they have their talk, and she's like, look, I understand why you did it, but also I'm never going to forgive you for this.
Yeah. But I also could see them being in a situation where she still needs Joel. Where she's like, look, I'm pissed off with you, but I need you to help me with what I'm doing right now. And I hope that gives them the opportunity to talk more and discuss and kind of let everything out and have like a decent, like, not rebuilding it to back up to what it was, their relationship, but still not completely ruining and closing out that relationship completely.
There's definitely lots of routes they could take, Joel and Ellie's relationship in the sequel, though. And luckily, we now have a new release date from a couple of weeks ago, of course, so we can actually look forward to finding out what that is this time. Because when the game got delayed, I was worried we'd be recording the final part and be like, look forward to finding out soon. But now at least I can be like, look forward to finding out in, not
June
next
19th.
Week, not 2 weeks when it was originally supposed to be, but a month after this, basically, yeah. That kind of thing, yeah. Any other closing thoughts on the game as a whole, just before we wrap up?
This game was, I loved playing through it again, just looking for the narrative and not just playing as a game, like playing on it easy. It made me understand that I'm at a point in life where I just want it to be the narrative. I don't need it to be a game all the time. Mm-hmm. Like we've talked throughout this series so far about the moments where we're like, man, somebody told them to stuff more game into here, didn't they? Like there's just random parts of just action. But I love this game, and I think playing through it a second time with I've had years to think about Joel and Ellie's relationship and to listen to Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson talk about the characters more, and then to play through it again and just really experience those two, and kind of without all the kind of suspense and wow and like without the unknown of what's happening in the game, to really be able to take time to enjoy that relationship and to really get myself kind of enveloped by their characters. I think it was just, I'm really grateful that we've played through it again, and it's one of those things where I'm really grateful that I'm playing games again and I'm not, trapped playing Overwatch every day. It's been really good.
Cool. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's not often I replay a game, so And the only way you'll get me to replay anything is basically if we do stuff like this on podcasts or for the website. So, yeehaw, everybody. It's been fun playing it, and I'm really more excited about playing the second one. Not to say I wasn't excited, but obviously
it's going to be a
replaying
lot
this.
fresher.
Yeah. I feel like I may pick up more subtle things when I
much
play that one than people who haven't replayed it recently.
Especially like, you know, the stuff that my brain had just sifted out or forgotten from playing this game. Like just the overall experience. I'm just going to be a lot more understanding of and better about in general. So I'm excited, and I hope everybody who's listened and has played along with us and got to experience it with us, because it's been really good.
Cool. So that'll do it for the last segment of us discussing this. There'll be one more bonus Last of Us discussion bonus bit on next week's episode of Platinum Explosion. They'll go up separately, of course, once again, where myself and Buddy Watson will be just talking about the game's multiplayer, because he's a massive fan of that. And also, I kind of want to discuss the very small story they tack onto that and what I would like to see them do to make it more interesting, because this whole segment for the last 7 weeks has been about the story. So let's just make the multiplayer about the story as well. Fuck it. Like, let's do that. That'll do it. I hope you've enjoyed listening to me and Ciaran talk about Last of Us. Once again, in case you didn't get all that information, next week, one more Last of Us segment. Me, Buddy Watson, from soon to be revealed, it's announced but not revealed, Radio Watson. So make sure you check out Buddy's Twitter for more information on that. At Buddy Watson 12, of course. You can follow me and anyone else from the Explosion Network by heading to explosionnetwork.com/Twitter. You'll find all our Twitters there. You can suggest topics or send in questions for the show by emailing mail@explosionnetwork.com with the subject line Platinum Explosion. And until next week, remember, every trophy counts. Hey, don't forget you can subscribe to the show wherever you're currently listening, and you can drop a review if you can. Find more great shows like this and more content over at explosionnetwork.com. And please consider supporting us for as little as $1 over on our Ko-fi page by heading to explosionnetwork.com/support. Thanks for listening.